Almost overnight, headlines began making the same claim. AI has finally identified the Zodiac. Many people dismissed it immediately. Within minutes, I realized something was missing. Almost every new Zodiac theory begins with the same assumption, that Zodiac was telling the truth. The Zodiac wasn't just an ordinary criminal. The case became a complex psychological game between the perpetrator and the authorities. He mailed letters, he mailed ciphers, and he claimed one of those ciphers contained his real name.
Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.
A man who wanted to control the investigation long after every crime was over. More than 50 years later, people may still be following his instructions. That's where AI enters the story. What if AI looked at the Zodiac case? The idea spread quickly. For decades, investigators had analyzed witness statements, police reports, fingerprints, handwriting, and the suspect's letters. But AI offered something different. Then one particular claim caught everyone's attention: the Zodiac's shortest cipher, known simply as Z13. Unlike the famous Z408, unlike the Z340 that was finally solved in 2020, the 13-character cipher has never been officially decoded. Just 13 symbols. Too short for traditional cryptanalysis to produce a single reliable answer. According to the sender himself, those 13 symbols supposedly contained his name. An unusual place to begin an investigation, taking the suspect's advice. But there was a problem. Nothing has ever proven that statement was true. Then one screenshot appeared. It claimed the AI had identified a suspect. Hours later, another screenshot claimed something completely different. Neither included enough information to verify the result. That didn't stop millions of people from sharing both. And before long, many viewers believed the mystery might finally be solved. But that's where something unusual happened. Very few people were reading the original claims. Most were repeating someone else's summary, which is surprisingly efficient. You never have to question evidence. You never bothered to read. The internet solved the case before it finished reading it. The story traveled much faster than the evidence itself. Eventually, possibilities begin to sound like conclusions. There was another assumption. Almost nobody questioned. Almost everyone assumed every Zodiac letter had been written by the same person. Before we decide whether this AI theory deserves to be taken seriously, what exactly did it claim? If you've watched enough videos or read enough headlines, you might think an AI simply typed in a suspect's name and declared the mystery solved. That isn't what happened, at least not in any documented public analysis. Most of the recent attention centers on one cipher: Z13. The shortest message ever sent by Zodiac. Too little information for any solution to be verified with certainty. There is no accepted answer for Z13. There never has been. That's exactly why cryptographers have spent decades treating Z13 with caution. The puzzle is simply too small. Any proposed solution has to rely on assumptions, and assumptions can easily lead different people toward completely different answers. Then I went back to where this theory actually started. I ignored the headlines and went straight to the original post. The researcher claimed the AI had identified a possible name hidden inside Z13. Within hours, screenshots spread across Reddit, X, YouTube, and online forums. Others immediately pointed out something important. The researcher hadn't released enough information for anyone else to verify the result. The debate had already started. Strangely, many people had already picked a side. Most hadn't read the original research. But one question immediately came to mind. Could anyone else actually reproduce the same result? The headlines became more confident than the research itself. Confidence spreads much faster than methodology. Case closed? Have we finally found his name? People stopped asking whether the conclusion could be true. They started asking why federal authorities haven't admitted it yet. That's a very different question, because it assumes the conclusion has already been proven. Most of these AI investigations were created by independent researchers. Some researchers shared their methods, others shared only the result. Then another researcher followed a similar process. The result wasn't identical. That immediately raised another question. If two people using AI reached different conclusions, which one was supposed to be trusted? That doesn't mean every AI conclusion is unreliable. It means every conclusion still has to survive the same test. Can it be independently verified? At first, the theory looked stronger than I expected. Then I found the first piece of evidence that didn't fit. This is where many people began believing the theory. Not because it suddenly produced undeniable proof, but because several separate pieces seemed to point in the same direction. Supporters of the AI theory argue that the cipher should never be examined by itself. Instead, they believe it should be treated as one piece of a much larger puzzle. If that's true, then looking at Z13 in complete isolation may have been the wrong approach from the beginning. One approach searches for a message, the other searches for consistency. They argued the AI had found something investigators overlooked. Critics responded that the same evidence had been available for years, only the interpretation had changed. Some pointed to Zodiac's writing habits. Others argued those same patterns could describe more than one suspect. The same evidence was now leading people to opposite conclusions. Because once the AI began suggesting specific names, people naturally started comparing those names to the historical record. Did this person live in the right area? Could they have traveled between the crime scenes? Were they old enough? Did they have military experience? Were they familiar with cryptography? Did they write in a similar style? Then one detail refused to fit. The more I read, the less certain I became. Both sides raised legitimate points. Supporters saw speed as an advantage. Critics saw another problem. A faster answer isn't automatically a better answer. Sometimes it just means we're wrong sooner. Then I checked the one opinion that mattered most: the official authorities. If this theory is as convincing as some people claim, why hasn't the case been reopened? And the answer begins with something surprisingly simple. An interesting theory is not the same as admissible evidence. Law enforcement requires evidence that can be independently verified. That's where the AI theory faces its biggest obstacle. Computers can find meaningful patterns. Investigators still have to prove those patterns reflect reality. Take the Z13 cipher. Even today, no officially accepted solution exists. Many professional cryptographers have made the same observation over the years. With only 13 symbols, multiple solutions can appear equally convincing. Supporters sometimes point out that the proposed solution appears to fit other parts of the investigation. Critics respond with a different question. Would another name fit just as well? Until that question has only one answer, the cipher remains unverified. Even if an AI proposes a suspect, the investigation still needs something tangible. DNA, fingerprints, verified handwriting comparisons, a confirmed chain of evidence. As of today, no publicly released AI analysis has produced that missing piece. The official position of law enforcement remained unchanged. the Zodiac case has not been officially solved. That doesn't necessarily mean every AI observation is wrong. It means the available evidence hasn't crossed the legal threshold required to close the case. AI wasn't discovering new evidence. It was reinterpreting old evidence, which is unfortunate because courtrooms still insist on evidence. If key evidence was never collected, no AI can recover it. And if witnesses were mistaken, it can only analyze those same statements. He mailed letters that mixed truth with deception. He claimed responsibility for crimes that some investigators still question today. Some statements were confirmed, others remain uncertain. Every new letter forced investigators to separate genuine clues from deliberate distraction. Some letters have long been debated by investigators and researchers. If even one of those letters came from a copycat instead of Zodiac himself, then any analysis treating every letter as authentic could begin from the wrong premise. It may come from the speed of the internet. We're left with one final question. If this investigation landed on your desk today, would you consider the case solved, or would you keep looking? One table, one case file. No headlines, no online debates, just the evidence. An AI analysis produced a result that many people found convincing. Professional cryptographers have not accepted that conclusion. Federal investigators have not changed their official position. I still don't think AI solved Zodiac. I think it solved exactly what Zodiac wanted us to solve. Those are not the same thing. Then there's the question that no algorithm can answer by itself. Did the Zodiac actually tell the truth? The entire importance of Z13 comes from one sentence written by Zodiac himself. He claimed the cipher contained his identity. What if Zodiac lied? He had already demonstrated that he enjoyed misleading investigators, and he repeatedly blurred the line between truth and performance. If the 13-character cipher was another distraction, then every attempt to force a real name out of it could be chasing exactly what he wanted people to chase. I think most people are arguing about the wrong question, not whether AI solved Z13, whether Zodiac ever intended Z13 to identify him at all. What would actually convince you? For some, the AI has already changed the conversation. For others, nothing changes until new physical evidence appears. For decades, people asked whether the Zodiac's remaining ciphers would ever be approached in a completely new way. Now they have. Which assumption was wrong? That Zodiac was telling the truth? Or that every Zodiac letter came from the same person? Don't miss out on the next content. Subscribe, like, and turn on notifications.